Once again, this morning we are having some difficulties with our conference call service. So as you want to ask questions of our coaches, we'll just kind of do a preliminary check as we go amongst our group. So I appreciate everyone's patience with that. This time we move on to our next coach this morning, the head coach of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, Joe Moglia.
Hey, good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Coach. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Congratulations on moving into conference play with the victory, 6-0 overall. If you can open up, talk about the victory over PC and some of the challenges you had against the Blue Hose. We'll start taking questions and talk about the team going into this week.
I was actually in a meeting in the beginning of the call, so I didn't have a chance to hear what Harold actually said. But I and my entire staff would take our hats off to him and his staff for the job that they did against us. I think across the board, they were. It wasn't a matter of only being sound. I think their game plan for us was incredibly effective. I thought that they did a wonderful job of not necessarily stopping our offense, but certainly doing a great job of keeping him from getting into the end zone, which was critical. Their offense, they have brought in the third quarterback, and he's a good athlete, this kid, and he's not a pristine passer by any stretch of the imagination, but he's got good enough mobility to get himself out of trouble, and he can throw the ball. He's not particularly experienced at quarterback, but he can throw the ball. Their running backs certainly wound up doing a great job for him, and broke a couple of big ones against us, but was consistent throughout the span of the game. And I think Harold's teams have always been good with regard to their special teams. So totally, I take my hats off to them. They certainly could have won that game, and where I was kind of pleased or displeased, I continue to be pleased with the play of our special teams in general. I can't stand the fact that we had a penalty on one of our kickoff returns. Hitting a guy in the back, to me, is a lack of discipline, and it's something we talk about and work on every day. I was certainly pleased with the play of Ryan Granger. When we faked the field goal, it was Tyler Keene, one of our backup quarterbacks, pitched the ball to him. He gets into the end zone, he scores a touchdown, has a couple of field goals, an extra point, etc. He certainly had an outstanding game, but I thought special teams played well. From a defensive perspective, I thought our tackling was not great, but it was okay. I thought it was okay, and I thought we had quite a few 3-and-outs. But when we weren't consistent, They certainly did a good job then of effectively moving the ball against us and come up with a couple big plays. And again, the game could have gone either way at the end. So there was stuff with the defense that I was really pleased with, and stuff that we just got to get better at. And then from an offensive perspective, we had a fumble, we had an interception, we had a couple of key penalties, in the red zone again, and Alex was not particularly on a handful of throws where we had guys in position to be able to make good plays. We had 2 or 3 guys that were wide open that dropped the balls, that dropped the ball. So we made a lot of mistakes on offense that prevented us from being more effective. But like I began with, you got to give Harold's defensive staff a lot of credit for having the right guys in the right place at the right time.
All right, Coach, thanks very much. We'll start taking questions for Coastal Carolina head coach Joe Moglia. For those wishing to ask a question, feel free to unmute your line, and we'll begin with you shortly. Coach, heading into the bye week, just kind of what's the team going to be focusing on? Anything different than you've done in the past with an open week, but just what's the game plan for this week as you prepare for Monmouth?
Well, we're going to have 3 full days of practice today, tomorrow, and Thursday. We are going to give everybody on the staff is going to be off Friday and Saturday, as are our players. I know this is a great time for people to get on the road recruiting. I'm not crazy about that idea because, frankly, by the time you get out, you get on the road, the amount of time it takes and the amount of time you can actually spend with the potential recruit, I think, I'm not sure that that's worth it. And as we all know, the grind that our coaching staff, all of us, go throughout the entire season, I think when we finally get a little bit of a break, I think the guys need that break. I think our coaches need that break. So frankly, we are more energized as a staff and kind of ready to go the second half of the season, which is all league play as well. So we're going to have 3 tough days of practice. We're going to be aggressive with those practices. But then everybody gets a break Friday and Saturday, and then we go back to normal routine on Sunday.
Thanks, Coach. We'll start taking questions for head coach Joe Moglia. Again, feel free to unmute your lines and ask any questions. If there are none, I'll continue with a couple one-on-one. Coach, you mentioned Ryan Granger, our Special Teams Player of the Week, National Special Teams Player of the Week as well. Just in the past couple of years, he'd always been kind of like your long-distance kicker. Now that he's a full-time guy, through 6 games, he's performed very well for you. Just kind of talk about how he's progressed into that main role.
Well, while I didn't hear the early part of the call, I certainly heard Jamie's part of the call, and he talked about, he was answering that question about he has a number of guys, that may have played backup roles in the past, how the backup guy really fares in practice, and you expect your first and second unit guys to be able to get real work in a game as long as they deserve that in practice. That's frankly similar to what we do with regard to our special team guys. So in the past,
targets. Right, 10 targets, 105 yards in the top.
We still good here, Mark?
Yes, we are. Sorry about that.
It's all right. So I think in the past he has gotten a reasonable amount of work. He has made kicks under pressure before, and he's doing that now. And so he was prepared. He certainly could have played a year ago, but we had gone with Alex, and he's our guy this year.
And last question I have for you, just you mentioned it's a great time for the break for the team. Any players who are banged up that we haven't seen in a while that could be back next week against Monmouth?
No, we certainly hope so. So we've had Calvin Hollenhorst, our defensive end, who's been banged up. I would hope that he's going to be back against Monmouth. Aaron McFarland, one of our other defensive ends, who's been banged up. I'm hopeful that he's going to be back. We've had a lot of guys that have been playing I think all of you know, and many of you know, we really almost never hit during the week, but we're always at top speed. But the guys are getting banged up, from games, and the guys, those normal aches and pains that you have, but they become a little bit more serious when a guy's not able to go 100%. So hopefully most of our guys will be back ready to go, but we'll have a better feel for that by the end of this week.
Very good. Any last questions for Coach Moglia before we let him go for the morning? Feel free to unmute your line and ask away. Well, Coach, hearing none, we'll let you go. I appreciate you joining us, and enjoy the open day.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay.